big problem.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes,
Being
thank you.
recorded.
Oh, Natalie's here. Hi, Natalie.
Right.
Hi, Joanne.
So, Jose, I think you can start. I'd like to, unless you want us to, but there are 18 people that have joined us. Do you want us to wait a little bit or get started?
We can start, and people will join us. I believe several more will join the meeting. Hello, everyone. I am the secretary of the Professors Emeriti Network. We started 6 years ago in Slovenia after we discovered that there are several colleagues, retired professors, emeriti professors, who do not know about each other. So we started to talk about forming a group, and particularly after COVID, we learned about new technologies which are very helpful to bring groups together. And after a few meetings, we discovered that, well, we are smart, we are great, but not enough. That there are some others in the neighboring countries, Austria, Italy, and step by step we move. And look, today we are in Massachusetts, mostly, in the United States and Canada, which is wonderful. God bless this type of technology and the people who are using technology to do something good and smart. Our interest is in learning about what others are doing, because there is so much to be done. We don't know exactly how and what to do, but we believe there is a need and the pressure to come in touch with people of the same kind. I'm very happy that several of you are already known to each other. We are already a so-called online group. We know ourselves by face and voice and email exchanges. And this is enough to move perhaps a bit faster and more organized than so far. Not spending much time on the introduction, I would just like to thank Dina Silverstein and her colleagues and colleague for arranging for this meeting. They will provide a package of new experience and new programs they have, and this is exactly what we're looking for, learning from them. Dina, now please take it over. You are the manager, you are the boss. Help us making 2 hours as productive as possible. Dina, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Jose. And let me say before we begin, it's a privilege to be able to present to this esteemed group, an international group. So many of us have global orientations, and this is really kind of a great example of that. I know that this group is also very interested. I know that my first contact with Jose had to do with an email he had sent asking about universities that still have allowed their retired and emeriti faculty to keep their email. So it was very easy for me to respond that yes, at my campus, at the University of Massachusetts in Boston, yes, we do keep our email. And I suspect that we keep our email because they're interested in people donating to the university, and they want to make sure that they can reach us. But clearly, keeping our email was important. But on that note, I want to say that I was making an assumption, and I'm glad that it was accurate. I also have my Zoom account that you're using right now is through the university, and there's also I'm able to save to the Zoom, the recording to the Zoom cloud and to the university's Echo 360 program, which is a larger storage, which allows me to be able to have this link for as long as needed. And I got a little concerned yesterday, so I sent a message off to the university, the information technology people, and said, I'm just wanting to make sure that this assumption is accurate. So they assured me that we were good to go. All right, so having said that, today.
Nina, I don't mean to interrupt, but my screen is looking a little different than your regular screen for presentation. What's it look like to other people? Michelle, you usually know what it looks like. Does it look fine to you?
Yeah, it's in the presenter mode with the extra slides there, Nina, not just the
that's
one
only,
slide.
okay, that's only true
Housekeeping
for
is now.
Joanne and Michelle. Jose, do you see one screen or one slide, or do you see two slides on your screen?
I see two.
The housekeeping also.
You
Yeah,
also
we're
see
seeing
that one
two.
too? Okay. All right. How is that?
Perfect.
Okay.
There you go.
That's better? Okay, thank you
Yep.
very much. You see, I'm learning along with this as well. So we will we'll begin now. But I'll tell you what, Joanne, what I cannot see is I cannot see to admit people. So as you see,
I can do that as we go along. I've been doing that.
okay, terrific. What we're going to be talking to you today about is this concept of age inclusivity in higher education. And so Joanne is going to present the model that was developed by our team of researchers at UMass Boston, and Joanne herself is from LaSalle College and University, another university in the Boston area. And we've been working in this area for about 6 or 7 years. And we, as a group of 4 investigators, myself, Joanne, Susan Whitbourne, who is one of our presenters today too, and Lauren Bowen, who is not with us today, we have been meeting weekly on this topic. So we've been thinking about it a lot. The other speakers, Michelle and Ramraj, are going to be sharing actual examples. Well, Susan will be sharing examples from our data as well. And we asked them to specifically look at how this model relates to you, this emeriti and retired faculty, so that today the presentation is really focused on the inclusivity of retired and emeriti faculty with their institution of higher education. So a few housekeeping notes. I'd like us to be able to only ask for a few questions after each speaker. I know that this group is very engaged and always has a lively discussion. So we will have after each speaker a few questions, but to save the larger discussion till after all the speakers have a chance. And then I'd like us to try to use the hand raise function so we don't miss anyone who might ask a question. So I'd like us to try this if you're not already familiar with doing this. If you look on your Zoom screen, on the bottom, you see something that says reaction, all right? So I want you to press that reaction button. I just want you to try this out now, to press the reaction button. And then I want you to press where it says raise hand. Beautiful. Well, you've all probably done this already. But what happens is and then you could press lower hand when you've answered your question. Great. So by doing this, if everybody who registered shows up, there'll be about 45 people. But this way we'll be able to, if you have a question, your face rises to the top and we're able to call. Now, don't get frustrated if you can't do that. Please put your question in the chat and one of us will try to be able to see that and get to it. And then, and if that doesn't work, certainly just raise your hand and or shout out, and we'll get to you that way. All right. And as I said, the session is being recorded, and the link will be shared through the Emeritus Network website. And then I've asked people if they could to put your name, your country, your affiliation, and your email in the chat. And and that seems to work. And those of you who already put it into your name bar, thank you for that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Joanne, and I think you might want to also introduce yourself before getting into your presentation.
Great. Thanks, Nina, for getting us started. So I'm Joanne Montepar. I am a professor emerita of psychology at LaSalle University in the Boston area. And I've been working with Nina and several other colleagues on this call today around age inclusivity in higher education. So to get us started, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the age inclusivity domains of higher education model, the AIDHE model. That my colleagues from UMass and I have developed with support from the RRF Foundation for Aging. The work was also done in collaboration with the Gerontological Society of America, GSA. GSA is our main professional organization that we belong to and work on a variety of age-inclusive efforts in research and education and service. And my other colleagues who are here today to speak with you are also members of GSA. So Nina, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So we know better than anybody that the results of shifting age demographics are very far-reaching. And one thing that's happened in particular is more and more older individuals are looking to higher education for both professional and personal development opportunities. And this also includes what some of us are doing. So in response, there have been two related initiatives that have emerged. These initiatives are the Age-Friendly University Global Network, AFU, and the Age Inclusivity Domains of Higher Education, the AIDHE model. So the AFU initiative was launched in 2015 by Dublin City University in collaboration with Arizona State University in the US and University of Strathclyde, Scotland. And it offers 10 principles for how higher education can support older learners through lifelong learning, intergenerational exchange, and aging-focused education and research. It's now led by Arizona State University. Aaron Guest, who is a colleague, GSA colleague, is the lead there. And it's organized around a secretariat structure with 6 global regions represented. And at present, the network consists of over 115 colleges and universities across the globe. And a good number of these universities are in the US and Canada, and they're also affiliates of GSA. So to extend the reach of age inclusivity, in 2003, GSA adopted our age inclusivity domains of higher education model. And this model reinforces and it extends the AFU principles and the philosophy. The AFU principles focus mainly on educational access for older adults, but the work that we've been doing over the last 5 years has extended it in a broader way. More specifically, our model advocates that age-inclusive campus practices need to be viewed across 7 core institutional domains, and these are teaching and learning that align with the AFU principles, student affairs, outreach engagement, personnel, services and resources, research, and the physical environment. So Nina, next slide. Here you see a more detailed description of the types of practices within each domains, and we're going to give a number of resources that you could look at these at your own leisure. Maybe I can ask yourselves on mute.
I wrote about
So you're all on mute.
when I don't love myself is when I slip into the self-criticism
Susan,
around
so
behaviors,
you're not on mute.
Susan.
We can hear
when I'm
Susan.
not aligned with my values.
Susan,
And there's a
you.
big
Nina,
long
can you put her on mute? I think you might be able to do it.
aspects. And then my writing work.
I can't do it
okay,
based
how
on
is
the
this
screens that I have, but however, Michelle or Ram, if you go to
box right
participants
now? They keep
list
sort of
and you
exploding
go
in
to
my
the dots,
marriage.
you can mute
And
that person.
keeps showing up, and I'm like, how can I make it up?
There we go. Great. Thank you. Okay, so as I said, the AIDHE model, is a more comprehensive model, and it takes into consideration all of the functions of higher education. So here you see a more detailed description. As I mentioned, you're going to get some resources that will allow you to look at this in depth more. So for example, practices within the teaching and learning domain, they support curricular needs of age diverse students. It considers age-related course and program design and offerings, and the age-friendly, the campus climate, the age-friendly campus climate of our classrooms and beyond. So among the other practices that are identified here, you're going to see several that apply specifically to retired faculty members. Our colleague Susan Whitbourne is going to be talking about these practices in her comments, so I'm not going to go over them now for the sake of time. Next slide. So another important thing to note about our AIDHE model that distinguishes it from the age-friendly university approach is that the 7 domains extend the view of age inclusivity by recognizing not only the experiences of age-diverse students, but also faculty and staff, all of whom are part of the higher education process. We also know from our own personal experience that faculty and staff are, we describe it as aging in place on our campuses. We, as Emeriti faculty, we've been there for many, many, many years throughout our career. So it's important to take into consideration the wider campus community. This also became evident in the research that we conducted around the development of the model. And, one of the first things we did is we just looked at the demographics of who's on campuses. This was a sample of 25 campuses in the US. And it became evident that when you not only look at students, but also faculty and staff, that our campuses are very age diverse environments. So we'd like to argue that one thing to take away from our discussion here today is that we need to change the narrative of our campuses as being age segregated. I mean, it is the fact that we have a very large number of students that are between the ages of 18 and 24, what we often call traditional age students. But our campuses are much more diverse. And so we need to start looking at them through the lens of being age diverse if we're ever going to move towards higher education as actually being more age integrated. So now with that background in mind, I'm going to turn things over to my colleagues, all of whom are from age-friendly university institutions, and all of whom have been working on programs around Emeriti retired faculty that align with the AIDHE model that I've described to you. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Michelle Porter.
Well, but before Michelle speaks, do we have any questions? Anything that Joanne's raised that anyone needs clarification or has a question about? Okay, hearing none, then Michelle, certainly you can go ahead.
Great, thanks, Nina. And so I'm going to talk about a project that we've done. So if you go to the next slide, please, Nina. So I'm a professor in the Faculty of Kinesiology and Recreation Management, and I'm also the director of the Center on Aging at the University of Manitoba. And through that latter role, I chair the university's Age-Friendly University Committee. The University of Manitoba was the first university in Canada to become part of the global age-friendly university network. And this work that we're doing regarding senior scholars and professors emeriti, it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's been kind of there as something to work on when the kind of conditions were right, when the right people were able to be engaged or enthusiastic about this. So a few years ago in 2022, we really started in earnest working on this, largely because we have a vice provost academic affairs who's very keen on ensuring that senior scholars and professors emeriti are able to be fully engaged at the University of Manitoba. And she, in fact, provided us with some funding to do the research, some of which I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so you can go to the next slide, Nina. So, universities are pretty unique in providing specific positions for retired academics to continue to work, in most cases without pay. At the University of Manitoba, we do have 2 different types of positions. One is a senior scholar, which is a term appointment, and it's for any retired academics. And then we have Professor Emerita Emeritus, which is a lifetime appointment with a title and is for those who are able to be nominated and become this, they have to be a full professor in order to attain this. And there is a bit of a process. Not everyone can attain this role at our university. Both of these positions do allow retirees to engage in a wide variety of activities like holding research grants and supervising graduate students. The purpose of this study, though, was to learn more about the experiences of individuals in these positions, and then most importantly, to make recommendations for how these positions could be enhanced. And anecdotally, I had heard that we perhaps were not being terribly age inclusive in these positions, and people felt that they could be doing a lot more or being a lot more engaged. Next slide. So, as I said, we started this in 2022. This came from the Age Friendly University Committee, but primarily it was with colleague Bill Copps, who's on the meeting today, Tracy Peter, who's our vice provost, and along the way we did hire a research assistant. But the first thing we did was actually surveys with deans of faculties to find out how they were handling these positions. We then had conversations with those deans, but then we really wanted to hear from people in those positions. So we formed a working group. We did surveys and focus groups that I'm going to talk about today. We also got some data from human resources. We've created a full report that we ran by others, and we now have an implementation plan. So I'm going to take you through just highlights of some of this. Next slide, please. So these were individuals who took part in our survey. So we had 78 individuals. You can see that they really ranged in age and also in the length of time that they'd been in these positions. And we did have both senior scholars and professors emeriti participating in the survey. Next slide. For the focus groups, we had 11 women and men. They participated in 3 focus groups. And the interview guide for the focus groups was based on the findings from the surveys that we had done and really focused on their reasons for attaining the positions, the benefits to them and the university, the challenges that they have experienced, and what the processes were like for them. Next slide, please. So some of the things that we heard across both the surveys and focus groups, and I'm just going to highlight a few things here today, that some did express some transportation or accessibility issues, and we'd previously done some age-friendly work with citizen scientists, and we'd heard some of these kinds of issues being there for anyone trying to access the campus, not just senior scholars and professors emeriti. We did hear a lot about parking. I will get back to that. Next slide, please. Some of the frustrations that people shared, just one, that they're not really recognized as being around anymore or being able to contribute to the university. We did hear things that kind of align with some of the email issues that were brought up earlier. And it's not that people can't have these, they in fact can, but depending on the timing, they might lose their connection to their email and be without it for a few months. So that was definitely a frustration, and being able to use some of the other computer or network resources. And then just losing their individual web page was something that some experienced as well. Next slide. But they did also share the many benefits to the university as well as themselves. Here, I'm just listing the benefits to the university from their perspective. I won't read all of these, but you can see they're wide-ranging from research contributions, being a mentor, and just the fact that their publications are still being listed, so it helps to contribute to the reputation of the university. Next slide. From the focus groups, we came up with these specific themes. So individuals do feel a great commitment to the research work that they've done, to their colleagues, potentially in their department or around the world. They really appreciate having connection still. And here we heard that was mostly related to their home unit rather than necessarily the whole university. And they really do appreciate having access to the resources like libraries, computers, email. Um, while we did hear lots about great things and benefits, there was a lot of variability, even within our small group and the focus groups, in terms of what people's experiences were like, from being super fantastic to really not very good. Some individuals feel overlooked. Others suggest that there isn't a lot of clarity, but all were in agreement that there's opportunities to make things better, and they look forward to that. Next slide. So in terms of those opportunities, as I said, they look forward to that. Things like having a website to highlight their achievement, creating opportunities for them to be more engaged, and ultimately that we can create really a model workplace for retired academics. Next slide. So we did come up with recommendations at a number of different levels. And so there isn't just like one unit on campus that can kind of make things better. So first off is we need to make some changes with our policies and procedures. One example here is senior scholars appointments can only be for 3 years maximum at this point in time. And people thought that that could be lengthened. Next slide, please. In terms of just university initiatives, so these things would not have to go through Senate or anything else. So having a website, mentorship programs, perhaps having a small fund for travel or research, those things could be instituted. Next slide, please. Sorry, Nina, I'm going through these kind of quickly. And then in terms of university processes, come up with better ways to make sure that the transition is good so that people don't temporarily lose access to their email. We need to have more attention to promoting these positions. We heard that some people didn't even know that these positions were a possibility, and we definitely heard lots about parking. And so coming up with some sort of parking benefit could go a long way to making people actually feel like they belong and that they're being valued in the work that they do. Next slide. And then at the faculty level, deans and department heads could be having more proactive discussions to really ensure that things are done in a timely way to prevent those disruptions from happening, make sure that they maintain communications with these individuals so they don't feel overlooked or disconnected, and then actually remembering them for committee membership or other service contributions, because a lot of people still want to do those kinds of things. And so I will leave it there and answer any questions that you might have for me.
So are there any questions for Michelle before we go on to our next speaker? Okay, I guess everyone is writing their questions down and saving it for discussion. So thank you very much, Michelle and Ramraj.
Okay. Thank you, Nina. So I'm Ramraj Gautam. I'm a teaching professor at the Solomon School of Nursing at University of Massachusetts, Lowell. I'm a social gerontologist by training. And at the university, I also serve as a co-chair of the UMass Lowell Age-Friendly Collaborative Steering Committee. And I think very thankful to the Emeriti Professor Network for this opportunity to share our work here today, and excited to be in this panel. But also I'm happy that my colleagues, Dr. Karen Deverox-Melillo and Dr. Lisa Abdallah are in attendance today. So what I'll basically talk about is retired and emeriti engagement in classroom activities at my university here. Next slide. Yeah. So a quick background and a summary of what really led us to be interested in this retired and emeriti intergenerational programs is in 2019, through the UMass President System Office, the 5-campus system were designated as an age-friendly university. Then in 2020, our university, with support from our colleagues in UMass Boston, Nina and her colleagues, we launched the Age-Friendly University Climate Survey and Inventory. And this really unveiled several challenges and opportunities for us. And one day that really stood out to us, and something we had not really thought about, was the opportunity to engage the retired and emeriti faculty uh, for the benefit of the students, the retired and emeriti themselves, and ultimately the university. So in 2021, with support from the Gerontological Society of America, AIDHE, Academy for Gerontology in Higher Education, and AARP, we conducted a sequential mixed method study to really better understand retired and emeriti's interest in engaging in intergenerational teaching, service, and research, which I will briefly share in my next slides. Then on that, I'm also going to primarily focus, as I said today, on the Emeriti professors' intergenerational connection or intergenerational team talk classroom activity in my Intro to Gerontology course that was supported by my department's Donna Manning pilot funding. Next slide, yes. So first we conducted a scoping review, and basically we asked this research question about what are the best practices to engage older people in intergenerational learning in higher education. First, we are thinking about maybe we'll look at retired and emeriti faculty, but we could not find studies on that. So we've looked at, in general, older people. And the reviewed articles basically demonstrated several strategies used to engage older adults with students and faculty members in higher education. And one we noted was there were limited studies, including retired and emeriti faculty in intergenerational programs in higher education. And likewise, in our subsequent work, we interviewed emeriti professors, and they offered several insights, including promoting intergenerational learning activities, considering emeriti groups or organizations, and majority of the participants, both from the qualitative and the quantitative data that we collected, reported their interest in engaging with university students. So with that, we designed a intergenerational program, which I'll share next. And these interests in engagements were primarily in 3 different areas: intergenerational education, research, and service, with some examples that you can see on the slides, such as for intergenerational education, like guest lectures, interviews, panelists, or even simulation or role modeling. For research, activities such as leading research seminar, being a research participant, mentoring students in different projects and theses. And for service, some of the examples that came out were mentoring junior faculty, advisory role in student clubs, and others. Next slide. So today I'll focus on this intergenerational education. So after all this, hearing from retired and emeriti faculty that they were interested, right, to be engaged with their students in some ways, we designed this Emeriti Professors Intergenerational Connection, EPIC, that we are calling it, as a classroom activity that was really framed around the outreach and engagement domain of age inclusivity domains of higher education that Joanne presented a while ago, and also framed around the PEACE model, or the positive education about aging and contact experience, which really emphasizes that including a positive role model in intergenerational contact. And we thought, I mean, emeriti faculty would be one of those best role models, basically, for undergraduate students and in my course, in gerontology course. And this was also framed with the age-friendly university principles 4 and 9 that talk about intergenerational programs and engaging universities' own retired and emeriti faculty. Next slide. Yeah. So a quick summary of this classroom activity. So this includes a team of 4 to 5 undergraduate students It's a team project. The course faculty forms the teams. Each member in the team has some kind of a role, leadership role, so to say. For example, some take the role of communicating with the Emeriti professors to organize the interview. Others lead in formulating open-ended questions. To guide others, take lead in taking a lead on the interview itself, and so on. Like I have a list of interested Emeriti faculty who are interested in this, and I connect them with the students, and they conduct the interview via Zoom. First, I started with 2 different Zoom sessions, but now they conduct one, about 1 to 1.5 hours, depending on that. And so far it's been working well. I think I have been doing this for the last year or two, and this has been working well. And as an outcome of this interview, the students write a 2 to 3 page reflection paper. They also get an opportunity to read classmates' papers through Canvas. That's the learning management system we have here. And then the next slides, I will very briefly share about some of the data we collected from both the Emeriti professors and also from the students about the impact of this intergenerational connection. Yeah. So we conducted data from the students, and in this case, 61 students pre and post. We looked at the impact of this connection, and we found that in summary, there was a significant reduction in students' aging anxiety, increased positive expectations regarding aging. And likewise, within that positive expectations, there are 3 different subscales, and it was significantly increased physical health and cognitive function expectations, but not much on the mental health. Maybe, I mean, that could be because the students were, during their interviews, maybe not bringing those mental health issues with them. Next slide. Maybe, yeah. Okay. And also, these are some of the quotes I thought were very positive and strong. Like some of them said, yes, I learned that retirement does not mean an end to all productiveness and engagement in challenging tasks, which before I slightly believed to be true. My perception of aging, however, had changed as life is not as simple as you retire and now you are suddenly happy. I think it takes hard work to be happy in old age, to be socially involved, workout and hobbies. And it changed my perspective on how I was expecting retirement to look like. I used to think that when someone retires, most of the times it means them staying at home and deteriorating. However, after my interview and reading some of my classmates' interviews, I have realized that we can be old and still do a bunch of things for different purpose. I think that was particularly exciting to get all that from undergraduate students after this interview. Next slide. And we also conducted interviews, qualitative interviews with retired and Emeriti faculty who participated in this activity about their experiences of this and their impact of this classroom activity. And some of the themes that are, I think, for this presentation are interesting and relevant were really their passion for teaching and interacting with young people. Right? That's something they wanted to do in their retirement too. And they found that this opportunity was helpful to be engaged with and also another example for them to be engaged with the university. They also shared their satisfaction with values and ideas expressed in the intergenerational learning activities, all these different questions that the students were posing to them. And I know last semester, I just got some feedback from this faculty, Emeriti faculty is like, why don't you ask them to ask even more bold questions to us, right? Not necessarily all generic questions. Let them be more open. So I think, so there has been all that too. And this study was conducted after COVID. So there were also at the time themes around that emerged, the use of Zoom online platform as a means of engagement and so on. Next slide. Yeah, next one. Yeah, next slide, Neil. Yeah. So finally, I think so from all this, there are several implications of this study, including in research, like most of the current intergenerational programs involving older people are primarily concentrated in primary and secondary grade, which is great. But also I think there are, as participants suggested in this case, retired and emeriti could also be engaged in such activities based on their interest, right? Not everyone will be interested in one or the other in their education, research, or service activities. And there are also implications in practice to really foster the age inclusivity in higher education, where emeriti can be engaged. And these activities are shown to be beneficial, like in our own studies that I just presented, to not only the students, but also the academic programs, the faculty, the university, the community, and the retired themselves. And when it comes to age inclusivity domains of higher education, these policies need to be intentionally promoted in these intergenerational interactions and support campus retired community, which really can advance the model, the AIDHE model. Next slide. And as some next steps and a quick summary, there is a need look for the institutions where they do not have, like in our case, we do not have a retired or emeriti faculty club or organization. So I think there's a need for that, so that there is a formal system of engagement with the university, that there is a formal regular system of engagement. And that can take most advantage of mentoring role that emeriti can bring to the whole group. Likewise, in the future, I think it would also be interesting if we can match a student's major, for example, a nursing major, if they could interview a nursing emeriti faculty, that could provide students all these benefits in their professional career trajectories. And in terms of research, I think as was also presented before, these two frameworks, the age-friendly university and the age inclusivity domains of higher education, that can really lead us in different research areas. So I think we have a lot of opportunities here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ramraj. Do we have questions for Ram at this point? Joanne, you're not, okay, there you go, Joanne. You unmute.
Yeah, I think I'm clapping and raising my hand. So
Okay.
anyway, I do have a question. I know Susan is going to talk about data across campuses, but Michelle and Ramraj, your data is specific to your institution. So my question is, has this data been useful in you making the case at your institutions about extending engagement opportunities for maritime retired faculty? Although I know at present it's really hard, at least in U.S. institutions, you know, we're under fire from lots of different ways right now, including attention to kind of enrollment issues. But has the data been useful, or how can it be useful to address, you know, engagement opportunities at your institutions?
Okay, Michelle, I can go first. Now, in our case, when we started with the age-friendly university climate survey, right, and all the information that we got from there, I think that was really helpful, that we presented that to our administrators. And then we all, I think, looked at that as an opportunity for us all to work work around age inclusivity. And some of the examples that I can think now, like you said about what all this data and all this research might mean, like now there have been programs, even with the honors program, after we shared our work with them, now they have reached out to their retired and emeriti faculty, and they are mentoring honors students, for example. Now we have a whole program on the university mentor program, U-Mentor that we call it. And we're now retired and emeriti faculty are also added in that, right? As they can also apply for that, and they are listed in there. And just a couple of months, a month or two ago, we came up with a whole website around what Emeriti means, what are the benefits and everything. I mean, we had it in multiple places. Now it's all being brought out into one particular web page with everything. I think that's another positive step. And with all this support, like we have now been able to form the Age Friendly University Collaborative Steering Committee here, where we have faculty, students, retired community members, and others that we are now working on some strategic planning to really move this forward. So I think all this data has been helpful. I mean, slowly, gradually to moving into this area.
Since we have the benefit of having your colleagues present too, I wonder if Karen or Lisa would like to add anything?
I should have learned by now. So hello, everyone. Ram has just done a fantastic job to express that. It really is difficult to be sure that the message gets out. We have a long way to go. In addition to all the things that Ram has talked about, we're also on something called UML Connect, where we're trying to recruit retired and emeriti faculty for various activities through that venue as well. And whenever we've had a publication, we're not shy about posting it on the webpage and sharing it with the provost, because we really want to be sure that the voice is heard in so many different activities, one of which is a leadership role that Ram has with the Advanced Office for Faculty Equity and Inclusion, so that there is a place institutionally that describes the age-friendly university. So, you know, we're making efforts. I think the one thing that we haven't moved forward with yet, and this is probably budgetary and otherwise, is the establishment of something like a retired or emeriti group or association. But I think there's a strong interest in being able to do so from the respondents that we have surveyed. Lisa?
Yeah, I think they covered everything. I mean, I would say the biggest piece also is that all of this adds support to the current work that's happening through the small group that's together to promote events around the university as it relates to retired and emeriti faculty. And we've been, our LERA group, which is Learning and Retirement Association, has a major involvement in this small group of people that are coming together to try to grow events and support across the university. So I think we're scratching the surface a little, but this has helped a lot.
Okay, thank you. And Suzanne? Suzanne Campbell, do you have to unmute?
Sorry, I was worried about trying to get the camera to work. So as I mentioned, I'm from University of British Columbia. I just retired in August, and I think we had the only College of Emeriti at UBC. And I have been so impressed. I'm doing a Walk for Joy program as a team. And I live in Philadelphia, so I'm really nowhere close to them, but there's a lot of virtual. A travel group will be presenting tomorrow night, and they've done all kinds of things. They have grant funding for emeriti, but you have to apply for an active emeriti status, and there is no pay. So, you know, as far as reimbursement or any of that type of thing, you get to choose what you want to be working on. It does allow you to continue. I still have some PhD and master students that I'm on committees and supervising, so I'm getting them through. But I've been really pleasantly surprised, and I'm curious to know if anyone else has heard of this idea of College of Emeriti, because it really added a status for us. I think we had a welcoming by the president in the fall, and felt very good. Formal letters.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to let go of the camera.
Thank you, Suzanne. Walter, yeah, did you have a comment on that too?
Yes, with regard to the University of British Columbia Emeritus College, the University of Toronto has something quite similar, at least from a distance, they seem to me to be quite similar.
Okay, thank you. And Bernard, you have to unmute.
I'm from University of Padua. We have just started the Association of Emeriti, and as far as Faculty of Emeriti is concerned, I want to tell you that the Technical University of Munich has one.
Okay.
They have fundings and everything, secretaries, and we are not there yet, but I hope someday. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And good. We'll continue all that after our next presentation. But I do want to say for our colleagues at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, we are part of we're at UMass Boston. We are part of a 5-campus system, and and I would say that the colleagues at UMass Lowell have far exceeded the level of activity of going from the research to the applied and the practice on their campus and making a difference. So they certainly are a model for us in Massachusetts. And now I'm happy to introduce our colleague, Susan Krause-Whitbourne, who will continue on. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, and well, I originally hail, as you can see, from UMass Amherst, down the pike towards the west of Boston and Lowell. I had retired before I really joined the Retired Association, but having obviously been in gerontology during my time on campus, even before I came to UMass Boston, I followed pretty actively what was happening with the Emeriti faculty. And I have some few comments I can share later if anybody wants to know, because there were a couple of unique things that had happened in Amherst. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the national survey that we conducted using data. Well, I'll explain the data in a minute, but this is going to be across campuses. So just to go back again to the AIDHE model, it started with really, and just to give a little bit more background, the observation that much of what was happening in the age-friendly movement wasn't dealing with these other functions of higher ed. And when you look at what universities have to do, many of these functions have a bearing on the well-being of retired faculty. Well, everybody, of course, but especially retired emeriti faculty. So for the most part, wait, Nina, this isn't actually the slide I wanted to show. I may have to, no, that isn't, that's the, yeah, it needs to be refreshed or unshare. And I hate doing this, but I would have to share, I'd have to interrupt and share my screen if that's okay. Yep, very good. Let's hope, you never know what's gonna show up. Right, this should be it. Okay, good, all right, perfect. So this is the modified AIDHE model for retired outreach and engagement with the main focus. This is the area that probably provides some of the most relevant aspects of campus life, makes those available to retired faculty. But actually, as you'll see, it goes beyond outreach and engagement. I mean, the outreach and engagement piece is universities are very interested in involving the community. It's many universities have this as one of their missions. And so depending on the nature of the campus, where it's located, like Amherst, where I was, a small town where the university dominated everything. So it pretty much, for Amherst, it was outreach and engagement was, we're going to bring all these community members in to do X, Y, and Z. But as you'll see, it does go beyond this outreach and engagement piece. But I do want to emphasize that because I don't think a lot of us think in terms of outreach and engagement is like something universities do. We're more worried about research and all the other stuff. But indeed, this is a big part of their mission to engage the community. I mean, it's good for town-gown relationships. And it just, you know, kind of, I think eventually is good for students as well. I mean, we think that, to have older adults engaged on the campus. Okay, next slide. Oh, I
Susan,
have to
you're
do the next
controlling
slide.
now.
Oh my gosh. Nina, next slide. No, it's me. Okay, so I want to explain, and we've talked about the ICCS, but just to explain from somebody who was involved in developing it, like how it works, how the, you know, what's in the sausage, you know, sausage was formed, but what goes into it. So the basic assumption is that you have things universities do. Then you have the way that people on campus, universities and colleges, perceive what they do. These don't always match. And so we went back to kind of the old social ecological models, you know, the 70s and social psychology, or even going back beyond earlier than that, where you have the objective and the subjective environment. And when we first started talking about an audit, which Nina had started at UMass Boston, we start listing all these things that we think will be age friendly. And then we go, well, you know, some of them actually exist and some of them are in people's heads and they're not practices. They're what people perceive. And that really got us going on this development of this whole model that now we use to inform our research and our thinking about this. And I hope you find helpful as well. So the inventory, just the nuts and bolts of it, are a bunch of Excel sheets sent out to campus administrators, unit heads, department heads. Please answer these questions. And their questions are framed in terms of these 7 domains. Please answer these questions, but they might go out to 14 departments to get those domains. Then the campus climate survey, and many people are familiar with the climate survey, and universities do this all the time for other reasons, not having to do with anything regarding age diversity. But we developed our own that matches the inventory in terms of content, but also adds subjective questions. How age friendly does this campus feel to you? And what are your beliefs about age inclusivity? And these would then be ratings about the advantages of having older faculty, older students, older people from the community on campus. So that's a basic framework. And as I push my own next slide, the AFU campuses who participated in our study, the 23 campuses, all completed the ICCS and in some cases, and we've done a bunch of webinars on this, and you can actually look at the webinars if you haven't seen them on the GSA website about how this gets done. But each was kind of semi-adapted to their own campus. And that was important because, I mean, in my head, I had a lot of UMass Amherst things going on around outreach and engagement. I knew some of the things they did, but you can't use that for everybody. So that's why there's a bit of flexibility built in here, because you don't want to be asking questions about things that have no relevance to a campus. So I decided to pull out inventory. It should, be inventory and climate items across domains to show you how this idea works. You give an inventory to an administrator and they answer these questions. And then people are asked whether they know this is provided or not. So access, I know we've all talked about things like, this is near and dear to everybody's heart, access to campus offices, a retired faculty association, just talked about that, tickets for purchase for events at reduced prices. Let me pause there, and then you can see the climate items that correspond to them. I mean, they're pretty much the same. It's just that the climate item is more worded in terms of a survey, and the inventory is yes, no. But this one about the purchase for events, I always thought was really interesting because on the Amherst campus, and I know this is true for many large state universities, people want to come back to go to sporting events and plays and shows and concerts and lectures. So it seemed like this might be ignored in some other manifestation of an age-friendly, age-inclusive model, but it's not. This is directly relevant to people's lives. Do you feel comfortable coming back to campus, which is a sort of attitudinal, but can you? And then what if you want to buy campus merchandise at a discounted price? Again, this is so practical and it does involve people's lives. And it would seem like, great, I can get 20% off on, branded merchandise, and I can still go around town and I can wear my, my sweatshirts and my hats and my gear and everything. And this, it really matters to a lot of people to be able to do that. And of course, if they want to buy supplies and, things for more serious purposes than going to a basketball game, they should be able to do that too. Then we get to everybody's, the two areas, email and parking. So do you have access to the email account after retirement? Do they provide that? And then do you know if they provide that? So, and I should point out, everybody answered these questions. But the sample that we used here were just retired faculty. I'm not sure, I think I have that number down the next slide, but it was 198 people who are fit the criteria of retired faculty. And then parking. So again, this is always a bone of contention. And I'll just tell a quick little anecdote. At Amherst, there was a proposal to have an emeritus faculty kind of honorific society of researchers. And they were going to put it in a very inaccessible place with absolutely no parking nearby at all, except outside parking, if you're lucky. And people would have to traverse quite a distance to get there and then go up 20 flights of elevators that never worked. So, it just things like that. And you think, but look, if you make parking available to people, it just makes all the difference in the world, as we know. So then talking about the sausage. Okay, so this match sausage involves taking the inventory, which was yes, no, practice present or not, and then seeing if the climate survey response from people matches that. And that was a direct 1 to 6 scale. So if the practice was present, the person said yes, that's a match. But what about if the practice is not present? So we were intrigued by this idea. People live in this sort of like either highly cynical, like they don't do anything for us, or just sort of optimistic, yes, they have it, no, they don't. But we were really interested in the no, they don't have it, and the practice isn't present. Okay, but no, they don't have it. I'm sorry, yes, they have it, but no, it's not present. There we go. That's the optimist. That's the person who says, well, of course, I'll get a discount at the campus store. But then, of course, the cynical say no when it's present. And then the realistic person, if you want to put people into categories here, no and no. But then there was the don't know, which to us counted as a no match. Because if you're saying you don't know, you don't have no idea how many research meetings were spent on that one. If you say don't know, does it mean no? Or does it mean don't know? But in our case, we said it's no match. I mean, if you don't know, then you can't be counted as a match because it might be there, it might not be there. If that makes any sense at all. So let's go on and talk about the findings. Again, this was based on an N of 198. I suppose that should have been here. It was such a really small percentage of the whole sample, which was like over 6,000 people. So we don't have a lot of demographics on this particular group, but they were distributed across campuses. So I know everybody wants to read this table and see, so how many schools actually had a retired faculty association? Well, turns out, 2/3 or something. And now if you look at the match score, what does that mean? Well, a perfect match is 1. as you saw from the previous slide. So 0.67 means, again, the people thinking, oh, they have it, but they don't. But more likely, since people are already retired, that it's there, but they're not aware of it. And so then if you look at some of these others, so we invented this idea that, these associations could use rooms on campus. That did not end up in the climate survey. We had to restrict the number of questions we could ask in the climate survey. It was already really long. So we went off of our previous pilot study where we said, well, you can only see like 61% even do that. And, we just had to decide where we're going to, put most of our focus so that people will complete the questionnaire. Then we get to the discount. Well, not many places do that. And most people realistically, most people don't even know when they do 0.32. So, or think they do and they don't. Again, we've got both options here. But still, on the one hand, the objective score is really low. And you ask yourself, how hard is it to do that? I mean, really, to give people even a 10% discount. And then the dining, commons, and cafeterias, 20%. Parking areas, they get up to 48%. A library, now everybody does well on the library question. And we didn't ask for how long, but that seems like that's good. I mean, that's easy for universities to do relatively. And then we had other things like banking services, not very often. Campus offices or workspaces. Now, we don't know what the workspace is like. So if you're one of those cynical people taking the survey, I don't know, but it could be a joint place, could be a cubby on the 23rd floor of the library. I don't know. Or we don't know if it's your own office. So that's like a kind of a bit of a problem with that question. The number is really high, but it might be inflated. However, university email, they rank pretty high, almost, over 78%. But then some of these items, and you can probably see these aren't just outreach and engagement. So campus health services, 22%. And so if you're thinking about a campus in a college town and people went to healthcare, the university healthcare for their whole working life, and now they can't go there anymore. And again, we had such low results in the pilot, we didn't even include it as a climate question. Air, hotel, and car rentals, I mean, that was on there, but we didn't really ask people, again, very low. Travel opportunities, sometimes you might get those mailings, for travel opportunities, but nobody offers any travel related credit cards, like none of these services that are kind of like freebies. Being able to stay on campus for short-term stays, we had these ideas that maybe they would rent out the dorms during slow times a year, but hardly anybody ever did it in the first place, and we didn't even ask about it. But then those discounts for campus events, 35% do it, and very few people recognize whether they do or do not. And then special seating, very low. So, I mean, you can look at this and say, why aren't some of these things being offered? I mean, Retired Faculty Association, okay, 2/3, again, the math score on that is not that good, but just solidly looking at what campuses can do, what does it cost them to do this? Just to give people more opportunities to kind of go back and forth on campus, do the things they want to do that they used to do, and feel supported in it, because this is part of that atmosphere of age inclusivity. It isn't just the things you do, but the message you communicate to people. And some of these things are cheap. It costs nothing to offer people, like, you can apply for a credit card through the university. I mean, what does it cost them? Nothing. So in conclusion, there are library email workspace availability, not bad. Parking, again, not very good. Coming back to campus for events, very limited. Low awareness of services to retired faculty, whether they're there or not. And so even though campuses may not even do that much. They should minimally let people know what they're doing. That promotion, the promotion of these offerings should be much brought to more people's attention. I mean, and I suspect that if they were, maybe they're worried that people will want more. If you give them a little bit, they're going to, oh, well, why can't I have this other thing too? I don't know if they think that far ahead, but I honestly don't even think they think about it. I mean, I just think this stuff escapes their awareness, and they don't realize how much good they could do for those town-gown relationships, for their campus, for their students, and of course, for the retired faculty. So with that, I am done with this presentation. I'm happy to entertain questions, and I will stop sharing.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Are there questions for
Unless
Susan?
anybody wants to go back to the data, let me just leave it out there if anybody wants to go back.
Okay, are there any questions for Susan at this point? Okay, all right, yes, if you could stop sharing, Susan, and then I just have a few more slides. Let's see. Okay, hopefully you see just one slide. Do you? Okay, great.
Yep, that's good, Nina.
It is, all right. So, so as I said, a lot of colleagues have been working on this for the past several years. So there are some resources that are available, and I draw your attention to the Gerontological Society of America, the GSA Enrich web pages. Now, it's important to say that that these that this website is available. These resources are available to you at this point in time without joining, without any membership. They're available to you. And on this website of Age Inclusivity in Higher Education, Susan had mentioned our ICCS, our Inventory and Campus Climate Survey. Not only do we have the tools available to you there, but we have all the SPS files, the analytical files. We have a training manual. We have everything there, all these files that are available for anyone who just wants to pick it up and use it. I will say that it has been used internationally, and colleagues in Israel translated it into Hebrew and conducted the study at the University of Haifa, which is pretty exciting to us. And they're going to have a publication coming out saying that they were able to validate it for outside the United States as well. So that's pretty exciting for us. And then, as Susan mentioned too, also on that site, we have webinars that go through the technical use of doing the survey, and then also a later one on evidence-based strategies that we had done further research on 3 of our 7 domains and came up with some recommendations. We came up with about over 2,000 strategies that we distilled to 23, and that's all shared on that website as well. These are infographics that are available on that website. We find that these have been really helpful in terms of engaging people in the conversation. One describes the model, and the other describes these 23 strategies that we came up that are research-based using focus groups and a Delphi panel of experts. And Joanne had mentioned a report that came out through the IAA Institute called Learners for Life, the Future of Higher Education in the Era of Longevity. This just came out in November, and Joanne and I were able to contribute to that the report. It's very readable, and it includes examples of these different domains and practices, not only across the United States, but definitely Canada as well. I know Michelle Porter is mentioned in there too. And that's it. So I am going to stop sharing now and open up for questions if anyone has questions or discussion now. Oh, come on. I know that this is, Joanne, you want to start?
I have a comment. I should have said it actually after Susan finished, but I'll add it now. I was just thinking how, if anybody's inclined to be doing any kind of assessment or gathering some data at their institutions, one of the things we learned in our research is that it's important not just to, I want to reinforce what Susan was talking about. It's important not just to see what, is available, to see what kind of gaps you might feel are needed, but to really look at the awareness that people have of these practices, because you're cutting yourself short if you say, okay, we found out that we have all these practices, because it doesn't mean that people, one, are aware of them or even agree with them. I think, what Ramraj and Karen were saying about also, you need to make information visible in any way you can, I think is a really important message to take away. If we're going to have any movement with our institutions about paying attention and figuring out what to do to make good use of
Just to piggyback on
people.
that, I mean,
Yep.
if they don't have email and aren't getting, part of communication, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I think the mindset has to change further up for administration to say, we need to make this more available, because you're right, they need to promote it, but if people aren't getting the mail or the emails or coming to campus, so I think the information needs to be there, but then they have to be willing to do the things to make that happen.
Susan, I'll let this go, but because you had to enter a little bit late, but I'm encouraging the hand raising. Michelle is following directions. So Michelle, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Nina. I'll maybe just provide a couple of comments in response to the question I think Joanne was asking after Ramraj's presentation about whether collecting data makes any difference. And I think in our case, it certainly has, and a number of things. I showed kind of the plan, but there are a number of things that are moving forward. The vice provost actually has someone who's not really in a position that's specifically directed to this, but she has now taken responsibility for a number of different initiatives. There certainly is more information being shared other than just in the policy and procedure kind of official documents of the university, that if you didn't know they were there, how would you know to find them? So in the retirement pages, there's more mention of these positions. There's now a Road to Retirement series that's happening to discuss a variety of things. And I think a lot more will happen. I think even just from our beginning meeting, the work that we did with faculties, I think just even bringing it up with deans that they should be thinking about people in these positions, not just appointing them and then kind of forgetting about them. I think that's even had an effect. I see it in my own faculty where I think retired individuals are being asked to be on committees where they never used to be. And then having our meeting with the president's executive team, because we had the vice provost as part of our working group, that was really critical as well, getting it right to the very top. So I am optimistic that, given that if we had just been doing this on our own as a research center and not having these other connections, I think it would be harder. So I think really getting that central administration support early on and getting them excited about doing this, I think is really important as well.
While people are thinking of questions, I'm going to call on Jody. Jody, I'm happy to see you there. And Jody is at a medical school. And can you just please briefly share, what's incredible stuff that's going on your campus relative to Emeriti and retired faculty?
Thanks, Nina, and apologies for being a few minutes late. We have a high of 6 degrees today and snow, so it was a little hairy getting to campus. So my apologies for being late, but nice to see all of you. So I lead the Multidisciplinary Center on Aging here at the University of Colorado, and we became an age-friendly university in 2021. And by about 2022, 23, we were really starting to snoop around about a retirees association of some sort, a network of Emeriti faculty. There was a web page that ironically, no one knew who owned, but yet it had all of these different resources on there for Emeriti faculty. So unfortunately, I think that's somewhat common in academia, where you have a champion and then the champion leaves and things are just left dangling. So so just in the last about 6 months, we've had one of our retired faculty who just joined one of the faculty senate groups as the retired faculty representative.
Wow.
Take really the lead with the Center on Aging to resurrect our Emeriti faculty network. And so we are in the throes right now of surveying. We have been able to get a list, we think, of about 900 retired faculty, of which we'll survey. Again, I know we were talking about emails earlier. That is always the tricky part because they do have an email, but do they check that email? And so we'll see what the response rate is from our 900 that we send out. And then this work is really being driven by a partnership of us here in the center and the provost office. So that's where here at our university, it lives right now. So the hope is to actually start some programming later this summer. We're in talks also with human resources. So that's why this is super helpful for me to hear. I know Michelle mentioned, you know, the road to retirement success and things like that. Our human resources area has not been super stellar in that. I have heard more grumblings than I care to across campus from retired faculty that, you know, come 5 o'clock on Friday, you turn your badge and your keys in, and then it's sort of a disconnect from the university. And it's, you know, thank you for your 30 to 40 years of service. And we need to be better than that. So selfishly, from the center standpoint, I'm really looking at how do I re-engage our Emeriti faculty back into the work we're doing. So we have a number of initiatives from research, clinical care, community engagement that our Emeriti faculty would fit beautifully. So in our strategic planning, looking at how we can give our folks options of where they would like to plug back in, if they would even like to, but plug back in. And the survey will also help drive kind of that next layer of work that we do. So I'm thrilled to be here. Times are a little tough right now at research institutions. As you can imagine, it is, yeah. So we just keep our head down and we keep focused on this work and hope that it's only a little hiccup because this could really stall a lot of what we're doing if things are put into place that are being threatened to put into place. So for our international visitors, it's not a great place to be right now if you're at a large research institution, but we're keeping focused and we're really excited about this work. And there's quite a bit of momentum around it from the provost office on down. So hopefully, Nina, that was what you were looking
for. Oh, no, terrific. Thank you so much. And I see that, Walter, you had a comment.
Yes, there's, I'm not sure how many of the Americans on the call are aware of the Association of Retirement Organizations in Higher Education, an American institution which has retiree associations from many institutions across the states. And in fact, there are a couple of Canadian ones have joined it as well. The goals of that association seem to overlap considerably with what you've been talking about today. In Canada, there's a similar organization of which I happen to be the current president. It's called College and University Retiree Associations of Canada. And Bill Kopp's down there is grinning away because he's also on the board of that association. But it is, the goal is to have retiree associations pull together retired faculty on particular institutions, and then the national organizations pull those associations together for their mutual benefit.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Walter, can you add that to the chat? The organization, or is there a website or something for for the, you know, for the American Association of Retired Faculty or whatever. that you
Okay.
mentioned. Okay. Any other comments, questions, or sharing of what's going on with your question? Okay, Jose, and unmute, please.
Wonderful. What are you doing? So many good things. 5, 6 years ago, we started to look around what may be happening with the retired professors and emeriti professors in the United States and Canada. And so we came to Vancouver, British Columbia, and to Arizona State. They have a college. So we got a wonderful idea and proposed the same to our management, our administration. Well, we said, we were told that we are retired and we are expected to be happy where we are. Now we are learning what you are doing. Through our contacts with Professor Archer, Walter Archer, the president of the Canadian organization, we have learned that they will celebrate 30 years anniversary of the organization this year. We have nothing similar in Europe. So much to be done. I would like to practically refer to 2 points you mentioned in your presentations. One, do you have association of retired emeriti professors in your school, in your university? And second, we are connecting pieces of websites, and now we have one website to provide a better coordinated messages to our members. These are 2 directions I believe we should follow. We don't have similar organizations in our universities. They are coming, but they are so much needed. And we have 3 professors here. I would like to engage them into short comment. One, Professor Peter Glavich, he was the first head of our group of retired professors and emeriti professors at the University of Maribor in Slovenia. And we have Professors Gaetano Tiene and Professor Heinrich Scheller from Bernhard Scheffler from the Padova University. Please share with us briefly how difficult it was to come up with a working operational center we have established. Peter first, briefly, but it's important to give an impression that we have a lot of interest and energy. However, we have to be modest and understand so much to be done. And this is why we need you. We need to learn from you. Peter, what would you say?
Yeah, thank you. And I have to say that we have started with this Center for the Retired and Emeriti Professors 6 years ago, so 2019. It was difficult, yeah. The same as I retired and wanted to work further on in research and pedagogy, they have been looking, what are you doing? Why? And then they get used to it. They saw that this is not endangering anyone. That we just have had some projects and it didn't do anything to the people which have been employed there. So it takes time. That's what I want to say. And then when we started with this Center for the Retired and Emeriti Professors, it was also maybe difficult, yeah. We still don't have any, let's say, official project. We have to do the projects via the faculty, individual faculties. So it takes time, as I said, but what we see is that not many retired professors are eager to work further on, but some of them are very much alive and want to do it, and they are useful for the society. And this is the same in a broader sense, you know, as the living age is prolonging, then there are people, more and more people, which can work even if they are retired, and that is useful for the society as a whole. We have now, you know, not enough people for doing a lot of jobs, and the retirees can do it. So this is useful even in this broader sense. And we are glad that we have some good examples in America and Canada. So this is for us very helpful, as it was with the AFU. So they helped us a lot, and I thank you very much for being so nice to work with us. Thank you.
Now let me provoke Bernhard and Gaetano. University of Padua is very close to where we live, north of Italy. We know they created the center or the entity, the unit, and it would be important to learn from them and what they can suggest based on their experience.
Okay, is Gaetano there? Otherwise, okay, I shall answer. First, I mean, we got the idea partly from Jose and also from what is going on in the Technical University of Munich association, which is now established. We will get a website on our page on the website of the university. I hope it will be ready soon. We can meet at the university. We will have also a first seminar in March. And when we started, people or the Emeriti all say, oh, finally something is going on. What I can say, I heard a lot in the US, Emeriti have a lot of services. Also in Padua, I mean, I'm going every day to university, to the department. I have office there, can do research and have all the services, but I cannot be tutor of PhD students. And if I get them, I have to give them to somebody else and be co-tutor, or to send them to Munich, where I can, but not in Padua. And the problem with funding, I mean, as far as I know, we have no funding, and we cannot manage it either. I mean, if we have some funding, that has still to be decided what will go on. But otherwise, we cannot complain. Okay.
Well, people are thinking, I mean, I think funding is important. And just because we're Emeriti doesn't mean we can't go after funding. And nor should there be an assumption that that all the work that is done on a volunteer basis. You know, I think that it's also people, even if it's a small honorarium or a stipend, it means a lot, and it shows some value. So I want to, you know, immediately say that everything that is done should be done without, you know, without the expectation of any type of compensation. What are other people's thoughts about that?
Yeah, when I refer to funding, it's for research. I mean, we have a very quite good retirement pension, so we don't need personal money, but money for research, yes. and also for traveling, because if I go to a conference, I have to pay it out of my pocket.
Okay, I would say you could still apply for grants for research. And the institution would be very, or at least ours is very happy to have us work on grant proposals. But Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know if you would be able to make money. We as researchers in Canada, with the agencies that we apply to, we never get funding directly coming towards us. But what I did want to say is that I know we do have some tax rules. So there are some things in place. If you retire, there are certain things that can or can't happen. So I know there are some tax rules that affect things, but we did have at least one person, I believe, who was in some sort of paid position. So I think there are some opportunities for pay, but kind of for the acting as a researcher, et cetera, I don't think there's any mechanism in place, even if you do have a research grant, to actually get paid for any of that work. And I'm not sure that would be easy to convince the university. There might also be some issues. We are a unionized faculty association, so that there might be some other issues there in terms of pay. But I think there are some opportunities, but I think they would be very focused, maybe sessional teaching, et cetera, which is another union at our university.
Jose, back to you. Peter has a comment.
Let me invite one
Okay,
more
I
person.
have just a small comment. In Slovenia, you cannot be financed by the national association for research, but you can do it in the European Union, no problem. So we had a lot of projects since the last years, and they don't ask you, are you retired or not? You can join or you can apply for the project and work with the others in the different countries. Usually we have 5 to 10 countries involved. This is a must in the European Union if you want to get the money. And of course, you can also travel. The only problem is that they, in our country, they look for the traveling cost as you have been paid for the work, so you have to pay the taxes and the added value. But you can next year require to get the money back. Not the university, they have to pay the money, but your personal involvement can be paid back.
Nina, I think Jose has been trying to raise his hand for quite a while, but he keeps hitting the applause button instead of the raised hand.
Okay, so
I would like to
go ahead.
propose for one more person to give us information about the meeting we had yesterday. Professor Lucia Chok, she chaired a meeting on some ethical issues of the retired professors within the European Association of Professors Emeriti. Perhaps, Lucia, in the aspect of the research going on in Europe right now about the discrimination, for the first time, there is a questionnaire in the countries of the European Union asking questions about examples of discrimination upon age. This is something what is very clear in many places, but governments try to hide it. No, we are perfect. No discrimination. What we are talking about? But now they are collecting data. Lucia, would you share some ideas with us?
We don't hear you. We don't hear you.
Lucia, we can't hear you.
Lucia, we don't hear you. We don't hear you. Lucia, we don't hear you. We still don't hear you.
Well, she is checking her speaker. Joanne had a question or a comment, Joanne?
Yeah, I mean, this might be something to fuel some discussion further in another meeting, but as I'm listening to everybody and I'm realizing how diverse people's experiences are, and frankly, the Emeriti retired faculty are not going to get much attention right now at my institution, for a number of reasons. And so, now I when people ask, what am I doing? I say, I've retired from LaSalle, but I'm keeping active professionally. And what that means is that where I have found opportunities is to engage with my professional organizations, in particular, the Gerontology Society of America. Even there, there are opportunities to have leadership roles, even some positions where there's kind of small support for attending conferences and whatnot. And another lifeline has been to connect with other retired faculty at other institutions. The UMass collaboration, has been fabulous. I mean, 3 of our 4-member team are Emeriti faculty. So I think that's also something for us to explore in more detail. If we're not being able to engage at our institutions for various reasons, what are some of the other ways that we can do it? You mentioned the associations of retired faculty and whatnot, but I think it's really interesting to think about opportunities within our particular field of expertise and study, and how do we engage them to engage us. So I just want to throw that out as an idea for further discussion.
Okay, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would just second what Joanne says. We talk. Michelle and I have been doing this work on this project, and one of the things we come to realize is it's a two-way street, as many or most things are. It's not a case of sitting back and waiting for the institution or some component of the institution to say, hey, we really value you. Why don't you come along and do this or do that, or here are opportunities for you? I think that's important. But I think the initiative and the advocacy and the affirmation of individuals is important as well, whether it's with the institution, or, as Joanne says, with individuals who are partners and colleagues, or certainly professional organizations. So I think that's something that's important in this discussion.
Thank you for that. And you could see even on this call, you're meeting colleagues across Canada as well. Okay, Jose, I think we're doing fine. You're about ready to wrap up. It's almost 2 hours. It's certainly we certainly had a very full substantive meeting.
I would like to express our thanks to the presenters of today's meeting, particularly to you, Nina. You put together the group of people, and we are happy to have you in the network, since you and your colleagues are action people, action ladies, action gentlemen, and this is what is needed. We need action. We don't need strategies. Strategies are easy to write. Nobody reads them. Actions. And in order to be active, we have to use technology, and we have to collaborate by using technology because there are no costs involved and it's so comfortable and very helpful. Thank you very much for the presentations today. Thank you very much for your participation, and wishing you all best with a major question or proposal. Think of what next. Think of what we could do together. Think of how we could collaborate, since we have so much in common. And it's wonderful to say, not just our institution. Go cross borders. Go to the networks. Go to others. And internet is a wonderful tool providing the opportunity that we can do close to whatever we want. Nina and colleagues, thank you very much, and thank you for the participation to this meeting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.